The sun scorched the frontier like a branding iron pressed against the earth, and every soul in the county knew better than to look twice at the ragged old woman limping along the dirt road, hunched under a threadbare shawl that fluttered like a wounded crow's wing. Riders galloped past her each day, kicking dust in her face as if she were just another forgotten relic of a long-dead world, while she clutched a rusty tin box to her chest with hands gnarled by time, ignoring the cruel laughter that chased her boots. The town of Dry Creek had no mercy left, not for stray dogs, not for starving children, and certainly not for a woman who looked like she might crumble into bones if a strong breeze hit her. Shops slammed doors at the sight of her, mothers pulled children aside, and the sheriff pretended he didn't see when boys threw stones and called her a witch, although no one knew her name, only whispers of Granny Dust, like she was a curse made of dirt. Then, on a day hotter than judgment, the ground thundered with the hoofbeats of a lone cowboy rolling in from the Badlands. Tall in the saddle, hat low, eyes carved from steel and heartbreak, his horse breathing fire from its nostrils as if it carried a secret. Cowboys came and went in Dry Creek, but this one didn't smell like trouble, he smelled like purpose, maybe fate dragged him in by the reins. While every other rider veered away from the ragged woman sprawled in the dirt after stumbling over a stone, this cowboy pulled his horse to a halt, tipping his hat as he dismounted, his spurs jangling like silver wind chimes. "Ma'am, you all right?" he asked, voice warm as whiskey, offering his hand while the townsfolk watched from porches with narrowed eyes. The old woman blinked up, stunned that anyone bothered at all, and whispered a thank you so fragile it sounded like a leaf breaking. When he helped her rise, a corner of her shawl slipped, revealing that rusty box clutched like it contained the meaning of life itself. The cowboy, Colt Avery, though nobody here knew his name yet, noticed strange embossed symbols scratched into the metal, not random marks but something like a crest. Before he could ask, a sneering rancher yelled from across the street, "Leave that hag. She's not worth a cup o' spit." Laughter erupted, wild and cruel. Colt's jaw hardened. He dusted off her shoulders gently, then turned to the crowd with a gaze that could silence thunder. "Ain't decent to ride past someone who needs help," he said, voice low yet sharp as a blade. The mocking faces faltered for a heartbeat. No one stood up to men like the rancher, whose wealth smothered the county like a boot on a neck. Colt offered his arm again. "Where you headed?" The woman hesitated, eyes like storm clouds hiding lightning. "My land," she rasped. "Half this county belongs to me." Gasps rippled through the street, even the horses seemed to pause. The rancher's smirk twitched into panic. Colt blinked. The woman who everyone dismissed as a nobody suddenly glimmered with power older than any bank ledger. She leaned closer. "Don't trust appearances, son, dust covers empires too." And just like that, Dry Creek wasn't dry anymore. It was soaked in secrets, greed, and the promise of a battle about to erupt like dynamite under a full moon. Colt didn't know it yet, though maybe destiny did. By helping the forgotten woman everyone despised, he had just declared war on the men who ruled the town, and they would strike back with a fury. Night crawled over Dry Creek like a wolf with silent paws, and while most folks snored inside their wooden homes wrapped in ignorance and prejudice, Colt Avery found himself sitting by a dim lantern inside the old woman's shack at the edge of town, a place so fragile it seemed a strong wind might fold it like a cheap deck of cards, yet inside those cracked walls lived something more valuable than gold, something that made greedy men lose sleep and sharpen their knives. The woman, who finally offered her real name, Eleanor Harrow, though the county once called her the Silver Rose, before time and tragedy coated her in grime, pulled out that rusty tin box again and laid it between them like an offering to fate itself. Colt watched her fingers tremble as she opened it, revealing not coins or jewels, but deeds, stack after stack of official papers stamped and sealed with the county emblem, each one declaring acres upon acres of Dry Creek soil belonged to Eleanor, lands now stolen, fenced, grazed, and claimed by men who smiled like allies while robbing her blind. "They thought if they broke me, no one would care," she whispered, voice brittle yet burning with quiet rage, her eyes glinting like flint ready to spark. Colt leaned closer, realizing this frail woman carried the weight of a frontier empire that wolves in human skin had conspired to erase. The rancher who mocked her earlier, Baron Vance, lord of cattle and cruelty, once married Eleanor's daughter and inherited land through deceit, then buried the truth by burying the girl who stood in his way. Colt's fists clenched as the story unraveled like barbed wire across a heart, Betrayal, a murdered heir, a grandmother stripped of power until nothing remained but dust and a box of evidence. Why tell me? Colt asked, though he already sensed the answer in his bones. Eleanor gazed at him with a sorrow older than the desert. Because you stopped, when others rode past, she said. Kindness ain't common in this cursed place. Then she pulled out one final paper, yellowed and sealed with a family crest carved into metal, a document naming a live descendant, someone still out there, someone with rightful claim to the largest spread of land this side of the territory. Colt's breath hitched. If that heir returned, the entire county would bow, while Vance's empire would crumble like a sandcastle against a flood. Outside, hoofbeats pounded, torches flared, angry voices sliced through the dark. Vance didn't like loose ends. He sure didn't like secrets. The shack's window shattered as a bullet shrieked through the air, lodging into the lantern and killing the light. Eleanor gasped. Colt's guns were already in his hands, drawn smooth as water flowing downhill. Shadows moved like demons outside. Eleanor grabbed his arm. Save the land. Save my bloodline, she begged, pushing the tin box into his chest like a final prayer. Fire began licking the walls, smoke swirling like a vengeful spirit. Colt knew he could either run alone or risk everything to protect the woman everyone left behind. He chose the second without thinking. The door exploded inward. Men flooded in. Colt swung, fired, ducked, fought with the fury of a rattler cornered against rock. Flames roared brighter. Eleanor screamed as a cowboy's boot collided with her ribs. Colt grabbed her, forcing a path through heat and bullets, leaping into the night with her limp form over his shoulder. Horses neighed in terror as the shack collapsed behind them, sparks devouring the proof of a forgotten queen. Colt mounted up, Eleanor in his arms, and raced toward the canyon as Vance shouted like the devil himself, "Bring me that cowboy's head." The chase surged into the darkness, the future of an empire trembling in one wooden box clutched against Colt's heart like a living pulse of justice.